Wednesday morning, October the 9th, 8 o'clock on the dot. From WESH 2, I'm First Warning Meteorologist Eric Burris. This is Coffee Talk. We get together 7 days a week to chat about what's going on in the world of weather. Obviously, the big story, looking outside, I'm in the boss's office again, just because they're doing all their work in the newsroom. But the big story is Hurricane Milton just got that 8 o'clock intermediate advisory. And looking at the satellite imagery, storm system center of circulation filling that eye in, perhaps because it's feeling some of that shear on that kind of northwestern side, but it is still a very formidable Category 4 hurricane. Winds down to 155 miles per hour. Anticipating the storm also striking the state of Florida as a Category 4 hurricane. So let's take a look at the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. The 8 o'clock intermediate advisory came down, but did not make any adjustments to the forecast cone. That does not adjust. So because of that, we have to kind of go off of the 5 a.m. numbers. But there you go. Very clearly, the 5 a.m. numbers showing that the storm system expected to continue this kind of slow decrease in intensity. Winds sitting at 155 now, 150 by 2 o'clock this afternoon, and making its way ashore, hard right turn, making its way ashore as a Category 4 storm with winds of about 130 miles an hour. At least that's the expectation from the National Hurricane Center. Now, that said, on Coffee Talk, we're going to look at the model data. We're really going to do a deep dive, and then we're going to take a moment and talk questions, right? But before we do any of that, let's just pause. Let's take whatever cup of coffee we're drinking, all right? I want us to take a pause. I drank... I've been awake since midnight. I'm done with coffee. Let's take a minute. We're going to drink whatever coffee. I've got protein. All right. Let's take a break. A lot of people are nervous, and understandably so. This is a very powerful hurricane, but I want to make sure we keep centered on information, and I want to make sure that we keep our anxiety at a minimum here, okay? Now, a lot of talk yesterday about shifts. There's always such talk about model shifts and that sort of thing. Here's a look at the most recent tropical models, and they're dialing in, but they're still spread out enough, right? And a lot of people are wondering, is it going to go to South Florida? Is it going to go to Central Florida? One way that we can look at it, and I got an idea. I got this idea from my former intern, and it's one of those moments where you sit back and you say to yourself, the intern's doing good work. What my intern, and he shows up in Coffee Talk from time to time. What Andrew does and he's a meteorologist down in Southwest Florida, is he shows the model consensus, and there he can kind of plot the consensus models. I was like, all right, Andrew, how do we do that? So he showed me how to do it in the computer system. So this is the consensus models. Okay, so essentially the red line is the 06Z consensus model. The orange line was the 00Z model. And of course, we can go back in time and back in time and back in time. What we see here, and I think that, is a worthwhile mention, is that the 00Z was here. The 6Z shifted to the north. So it'll be quite telling to see what happens when we get the 12Z models in. And we'll get those in about 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning. I will assure you that I will post this on my social channels when that model data comes in. But because of that change, it led the National Hurricane Center to nudge their forecast just a little bit. And looking at the changes from last night's 11 o'clock forecast to this morning's 5 a.m. forecast, it was a tweak to the left or a shift north. Not a significant one, but a shift north by about 13 miles. Now, we always tell you forecasting the center of circulation in the cone. All these lines are is all right. So it looks like Seminole County issued evacuation order for Hurricane Milton. So we'll have to find out what that means. But all those lines are is the center of the forecast cone. Okay. Not gonna lie, that just scared the snot out of me. And I have a feeling I'm not the only one that got scared. I'm sure all of you all as well probably got a little caught off guard. But that shift happened just a little bit. And there's going to be these little shifts here or there, okay? So we need to focus more on impacts than on categories and things like that. Yes, it's expected to strike as a major hurricane. Category 4 intensity is the forecast thought, okay? So what does that mean in terms of impacts? Well, let's take a look. First off, wind, because everybody wants to talk about the winds, right? So highlighted in red here, those are the hurricane force winds. Most of central Florida under hurricane force winds from Winter Haven to Lakeland, Kissimmee to St. Cloud, Claremont to Mineola and Groveland, Orlando to Winter Garden, UCF over to Union Park, Winter Springs, Oviedo, Sanford, Ponce Inlet, Port Orange, New Smyrna Beach, all of Brevard County and points to the south. You're expecting winds to run 75, 100 miles an hour, 105 miles an hour. To the north of that in orange, Daytona Beach, Holly Hill, Flagler Beach, Palm Coast, Ocala, Marion Oaks, the Villages. You can expect slower but equally damaging winds, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. That will still do a number, right? And then further north from there, we'll drop the winds off. Now, where will the worst winds go at the moment? We're thinking that the absolute worst of the weather goes from about in Pinellas County, basically south of Clearwater, including St. Pete. So yeah, Indian Rocks Beach, Anna Maria Island, Sarasota, Bradenton, all the way into Wauchula and Arcadia. Major hurricane conditions. Port Charlotte, Pine Island, Captiva Island, right? Sanibel Island, back to Fort Myers. Now, for anyone that's in Fort Myers, this is the absolute last thing you want to deal with. Absolute last thing you want to deal with, right? We've just went through Ian not long ago. Don't want it again. For anybody in Florida, Helene was an impactful storm. So obviously nobody wants to deal with this. In terms of the storm surge, the worst storm surge threat seems to be just south of Tampa. And that may shift. We're going to have to fine tune this using radar and just kind of minute by minute data. But 10 to 15-foot storm surge just south of Tampa Bay, just south of Anna Maria Island, along the Sun Coast, Sarasota, Bradenton, right down to the northern side there of Charlotte Harbor. But Charlotte Harbor could get trapped up with about a 12-foot storm surge, and Naples about an 8-foot storm surge. I want you to notice on the east coast of Florida, 3 to 5-foot water rise, Brevard, Volusia, and Flagler. Very important to understand because of the angle of attack with this storm system, we're going to shovel storm surge back in on the Atlantic coast. So just because you're on the East Coast does not mean that you're completely done and over with. For those of you asking about the Seminole County orders, I don't know yet. I'm at the office. Um, I, I know the news department will find out. I just don't have the information. Let me call. Hold on a second. 7 8 7 8. Hold on a second. Yeah. Hey, you're on speakerphone on Coffee Talk, so keep that in mind. What's the deal with that Seminole County evacuation order?
We're looking at it right now. They didn't offer any information other than evacuations were ordered. I'm trying to get with Seminole County right now to find out what's going on. Their social media and their websites aren't listing anything, and the alerts that they push to our phones also had no information. So we're calling around to see if they have any kind of indication on which areas need to evacuate or just any information at all on why the alert was issued.
All right, very good. Thank you. I'll check back later. Of course. Thanks. It's like the news department's handling it. Why don't we just chat with them? So we'll get there. All right. So anyway, Storm surge is a concern on the East Coast as well as on the West Coast, okay? Now I'm found 75 Mel's asking question, will the storm surge affect Merritt Island or is it only the Atlantic coast? So the significant storm surge will be at the beach. For those of us, in the Banana River, a lot of people have been asking about the Halifax. Water will get pushed into the inlets, right? So Ponce Inlet, but then it travels north-south. There will be a water rise, but you're not talking about a direct overflow like you are if you're at the beach. Taylor says that you're on speakerphone alert. Hey, that's courtesy. So, yeah. So we've gone over the winds, we've gone over the storm surge. Let's get into the tornado threat, okay? Because that tornado threat is growing. From the storm system itself, the thought process is essentially I-4 south, there will be many cells that want to spin. I-4 to the north, there will be several cells. So we are not under any kind of an advisory yet from the Storm Prediction Center. No tornado watches. I suspect that will happen much later today. Basically, I-4 to the south, we were put under a level 3 out of 5 risk for numerous strong to severe storms. This is not a surprise. That numerous threat, by the way, runs basically from Fort Myers and Sarasota across to Brevard County, Indian River, and northern portions of St. Lucie County. I would add to it that for now, the threat for severe weather is far enough south that there is a 60% likelihood of seeing a tornado watch issued, essentially for the Palm Beaches, parts of the Treasure Coast, back over to Southwest Florida, including Miami-Dade, Broward, and the Keys. Again, they're in that right front quadrant, and thus there's enough spin. We've seen several tornado warnings down that direction. Later today, we get into that tornadic threat for Central Florida. And then, give me a second to dial this. One additional point that I want to make is that the Storm Prediction Center also not only highlighted us as having a medium risk for tornadoes, but you see the hatched area, the lines there, they even stated that because of kind of the axis of a turn, that lined area could also see a significant tornado. So that's a little different than what we would normally see with landfalling tropical systems. But again, each one of these offers up their own unique breed, and so we just kind of have to act on how the atmosphere is running, okay? So tornadoes a threat certainly later this afternoon into tonight, okay? So that's where we're at there. Then there's the flooding threat, and I think if I'm honest with you, this is probably my biggest worry. Okay. In terms of tropical threats, oh, no, that's somebody else. Actually, hold on. 7445. Oh, that's the news line. Oh, hold on one second. 7445. Okay. All right. Well, if they want us again, they'll get back to us. The flooding threat is quite high. So let's talk a little bit about the rain chances. Okay. Let's run with our Futurecast model and get into the rainfall accumulations just to kind of start there, and then we can of course work beyond. So here's our Futurecast model, one run of one model, but at least it kind of gives you an idea of what one run of one model is showing. Okay. I-4 north, the biggest concern zone for rainfall. Look at that. There's spots, widespread, 8 inches to 12 inches of rain. Spots even higher than that with 18 to 24 in some spots. Emily, go ahead. What do you got?
Just here to inform
Go ahead. You
that
want to
the
join us?
Seminole County evacuation was put out in error.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
They are gonna send out another update to everybody soon with more information. And I'm gonna guess that's probably what it is.
Okay, actually, what it says is evacuation order for mobile homes, flooding areas, and persons with special needs.
All right. So there's your update. The first one was an error.
So they just must not have. Now it's got it. Okay. Goodness gracious. Um, though they did mention the flooding concern areas there, and certainly looking at just our Futurecast model alone, um, that is a very significant rainfall number there. Look at Daytona Beach. Daytona Beach is an area, parts of Daytona Beach flooded during Ian a couple of years ago. So maybe this isn't going to be in Orlando like it was the last time. Maybe it sets up shop just north. It's going to depend on exactly where the storm makes landfall. But there is a great risk, I think, to our area for very heavy rainfall. Okay, now let's get one thing clear. I want to make sure we know. I hope my tone speaks to the fact that I'm not talking to you in any hype. I'm not talking to you and I'm terrified. This is there are 11,000 people watching right now. And first off, I want to thank you all for joining us for Coffee Talk. I do this 7 days a week, rain or shine. Um, you know, I always go through the data. We can chat, we can have, but I want to make sure everybody understands a true picture of where we're looking, okay? All right, so that's one run of one model. That's Futurecast. Let's look at the European and get an idea of how much the European model is stating for rainfall. All right, different models are going to have different ideas here. So European's a little bit lower, but showing pockets of 8 to 12 inches, some pockets even 12 to 18. All right, that's the European. Let's look at the GFS. All right, there we go. All right, here's the GFS model. It's buffering. Let me go back. Go back. Buffering. All right, there we go. All right, so the GFS model, it seems like all of those models are trying to show basically I-4 north as the axis currently thought for rain and spread areas of 8 to 12 inches. Further to the south, you're talking 2 to 3 inches. So there's a very sharp cutoff between who could see flooding and who could just see some rainfall. To that point, we have to very much pay attention to things. And if you live in a flood prone area, perhaps that's the idea Seminole County was trying to get out was obviously flooding is a significant concern here, right? So yeah, obviously we don't love that. All right. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the threats. Let's talk about the timeline of things. Okay. I make this graphic and it's such a cheesy graphic, but I think that it at least gives an idea of threats and timeline. All right. So storm surge is going to be late tonight through tomorrow morning, 3 to 5 feet. If you live beachside in some areas, there have been evacuation orders placed. And for good reason, right? Wind this morning, it's breezy. Certainly later today, we'll get into a more gusty wind, right? 30, 45 in these feeder bands. And then late tonight into tomorrow morning, the 80, 90, 100, even 110 mile per hour wind gusts. And then there'll be a pretty sharp cutoff midday where it just turns breezy and quiets down. Obviously, this afternoon, overnight to tomorrow, scattered risk for tornadoes and the flooding. Oh man. I mean, I think that the flooding is probably the most widespread worry that I have for this storm system. Um, you're obviously on social media. You're on it. I'm on it. We're interacting together on it. There is a lot of people sharing just a lot of worst case scenario stuff. Some of that could play out, sure, but I want you to understand a couple of things. We're going to make it through this storm system. We're going to be okay. We'll be fine if we use our heads and we do the right things. So, a couple of things that I want you to consider heading into the hurricane. First thing, make sure that your yard's cleaned up. I saw the other day people trimming trees, and I thought to myself, when will anybody pick up that tree debris? Drove by it on my way to work today. And I thought to myself, I'm pulling in all of my I've got a rocking chair in my house. I've got some like Adirondacks. I'm pulling in my Adirondacks so that it doesn't fly and hit a house. Somebody's cutting trees down and leaving all of that debris out to hit. So I ask you, if you cut tree limbs down, I understand As long as you pull that debris in your garage because you know that there's not going to be anybody to pick up. Now, maybe somebody picks up. Maybe you take it to the trash yard or what have you. But don't be that person that just leaves a bunch of tree debris out there and you're like, oh, well, I had to cut the tree. Cool. But now you've left all of these things that are going to get picked up. If we're talking 100-mile, 110-mile-per-hour winds, y'all, we need to make sure to protect our neighbors. So please, please, please be a good neighbor. State Farm. Anyway, okay. Second thing, and I think that this is really, really, really important. I think this is really, really important. I'm going to pause for a second because there's a tornado watch that was just issued, and that tornado watch includes part of Osceola County. So let's get over and look at the tornado watch. It says through 6 a.m. Ignore that. I need to find. Here it is. All right. So Tornado Watch, here it is, without the timestamp. All right, so Tornado Watch issued, it goes until 9 p.m. All right, there's that Tornado Watch. So the Storm Prediction Center went ahead and issued it. So until 9 p.m. for Osceola, Polk counties and points to the south. What a tornado watch means is that conditions are favorable for tornado development. We know this to be the case. We've seen several of these things down south of us. So again, just within the last few seconds time, tornado watch issued for South Florida up to Osceola and Polk counties. Okay. All right. Back to what we were discussing. The children. That to me is the biggest thing. For those of us that are parents, let's make sure that we help our kids through this. We want to talk to them. We want to let them know there's a hurricane coming. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. All right, there's a hurricane coming. This I feel like is old hat for so many of us that have lived here, but there's also so many new residents to Central Florida or to the West Coast. You don't necessarily have to be watching me from Central Florida, right? So we need to talk to our children. It's going to get loud. It's going to rain. It's going to get windy. Well, why is this happening? Because sometimes Mother Nature throws a big hurricane. There's just a bunch of wind and some rain. We're going to be okay. I always share, my mother used to do slumber party nights with us. Friday nights were so special because it was slumber party night. We watched TGIF, man. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So I took that idea to our kids, and I say we, I'm here at work. We have slumber party night. When there's a hurricane, the kids know there's slumber party night. The kids know they get to sleep in mommy and daddy's bed. All right? That way, when it gets loud and it gets scary outside, you don't have to go running across the house. You can just comfort your children. They're going to be right there. Okay? I would also say, in comforting your kids, know what to do if there's a tornado warning issued, or God forbid, maybe one of those flying tree limbs that your neighbor left out flies and hits your window and busts through. Go to a different side of the house, go to a different room. Your safe room would be a room away from doors, away from windows, that sort of thing. Okay, you want to make sure to be able to get away from all of those things. So I think it's very important to head into this event tonight with those thoughts. Okay, and then after the hurricane, maybe you're not going to have power. Maybe you're not going to have water. Maybe there's trees and power lines down everywhere. I would beg you, beg you, beg you not to go out. Hey, let's go looking for the damage. A lot of storm deaths happen after the storm. People drive uh, right into tree limbs, power lines, those those high tension power lines when they come down. Oh man, my gosh, they will they will not give. So just please stay inside after the storm, okay? So these are things that I just want you to entertain in your mind looking ahead, okay? All right. So now we've got over 12,000 people here. So I would just say, I love all the questions that you're asking. I'm going to give you some answers as best I can, but understand my feed of your questions is going absolutely bonkers. Heather Bassett's saying, my house doesn't have an interior room. Sure, I understand that. I've got to believe there's a closet. I've got to believe that there's a bathroom with no doors and windows. The idea is your weak point of your house is going to be a window, right? So just get away as far in as you can. Okay? All right. Somebody's asking for Futurecast radar. I gotcha. I gotcha. So let's talk about Futurecast radar. I'm going to dial it up. And I would just add this is our in house model. We run it here. It's seemingly faster than the National Weather, or excuse me, than the National Hurricane Center's forecast. So I advertise, I'll share this with you, but you have to understand that it's one run of one model. Okay, so showing a little bit perhaps of a break, but then by about 2 o'clock, we're starting to pick up on some of the more intense rains moving in, and that's why we're saying that by 2 o'clock, and I'll go back to Futurecast certainly. But that's why we're saying 2 p.m., that's when you should lock yourself in, be where you're going to be. There's a little bit of wiggle room between you, me, and the trees, but after 2 o'clock, watch how Futurecast is bringing in a big swath of energy, 3, 4 o'clock, starting to get into some of those gustier winds, right? 30, 40 miles per hour. That's a storm. That's a normal summer storm. But I would again add that these rains and these tropical downpours are just something wicked. They really are. Somebody asked, can you talk about the direction of the winds? They're going to be turning because the center of circulation is literally going very near us. So things will start with kind of a northeasterly direction. And I don't know if you can see it there on the graphic, but it's there. The wind streams are coming through. Okay, so that's where we start. 4 o'clock, heavy stuff is getting going, heavy downpours. 5, 6 o'clock, notice the winds are picking up broadly, right? 30, 40, almost 50 miles an hour, gusts higher than that. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the center of circulation getting awful close to Florida's west coast at this point, turning more of an easterly direction across central Florida, okay? 9, 10 o'clock, 50, 60 mile per hour winds with higher gusts. 11, 12 o'clock, now we're getting into the core of the winds. And again, this is one run of one model. So Futurecast seemingly is a little faster than the others, and I'll show you kind of a comparison in a little bit. But midnight, that's when things are going to start getting going. Plus or minus, our model's a little faster, okay? There's midnight. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, look at the winds. 75 in Leesburg, sustained 69 in Kissimmee, say 58 in Orlando. 2 o'clock, 80 almost in Leesburg. 3 o'clock, I mean, this is go time. Kellyanne and I get on the air at 2 a.m., and I fully suspect she and I are going to be very, very busy tracking this moving through. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the worst of the weather along the shoreline. Now, notice 4 o'clock, I just want to pause this. You see the most intense rains are along the shoreline, but look on the backside. The villages, Leesburg, 62, 67 miles per hour. Even though you'll be on the back and maybe the rains won't be as blinding, you're still looking at the wind envelope. And again, I would just say tropical systems, the rain that's involved, it is absolutely mind numbing how heavy these rains are. Okay? Just absolutely mind numbing the amount of rain. So much driving rain. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, getting into sunrise. The core of the storm should start working off the shoreline. Still gusty though. 60, 65 mile an hour sustained there in Sanford. And then little by little, 8, 9 o'clock, starting to push it off, starting to push it off. When we look at the National Hurricane Center's official forecast, of the wind envelope, they're bringing the worst wind envelope into Tampa around 10 o'clock or so, landfall around 1 a.m., bringing that wind core into the metro later. That's 4 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 12, 1, 2 o'clock. So their official forecast is a little slower than our Futurecast. So I would just simply say we need to be watching, we need to be dialed in. But again, I think that the catch all is just be where you're going to be by 2 o'clock this afternoon. Okay? 13,000 of you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for hanging with us on Coffee Talk. My goal here is to talk you through the storm in a no hype manner. We'll discuss the models, we'll discuss the bad, we'll discuss the good. We're here doing Coffee Talk 7 days a week. So whether it's hurricaning or it's sunny outside, 8 a.m., we're here together. But I want to thank you for trusting me this morning. I will work hard to keep your trust. It's easier to get trust than it is to earn it, I think. So I'll work hard to keep your trust for years and years to come. All right. Let's see here. The Seminole County alert was sent by mistake. No, the first one seems like it was sent by mistake because it didn't have information. The second one included the vital information that we needed, aka flooding, areas that flood, mobile homes, or special needs. Holly's asking about what radio station we'll be on. Wesh 2's partnered with Magic 107.7 and certainly some of their sister stations. All right. Carbon Fiber on YouTube's asking, how do I prepare for flood warnings? That's a good question. You just kind of have to if you're in a low-lying area, in an area prone to flooding, at this point it's kind of too late to get into like sandbag territory. But you could put towels under doors, that kind of thing. Try to keep water out, and just know that like the potential is there that water could try to come in, right? So yeah, there's a live look. We're going to take a tower cam tour. There's a live look outside in Port Canaveral. We'll head over to the tourist district. I mean, this is the site that's being seen all across Central Florida, these torrential downpours. New Smyrna Beach, there's the shot there. Orlando from our Wesh 2 Studios tower cam. The roads are wet, but it's not too bad. Let's see here. Downtown Orlando and Lake Eola. Boy, isn't that a telling sight? Or lack of a sight, right? Yep. First warning, live Doppler radar. We haven't gone over to the live radar yet, so let's do that real quick. Not only for our area, but I just want a kind of a status update of what's going on south. Oh, look at that. Some very heavy rainfall coming in here around Melbourne, Satellite Beach area. Some thunder and lightning in it too. Just looking at the different radar sources. So that's the National Weather Service radar. That's our radar. So according to our radar, winds in this are running 38 miles an hour. So yeah, we've got some very, very heavy rain working right up into Port Canaveral in the next few minutes' time as that next wave of rain moves in. And honestly, look at how Futurecast is doing it. Futurecast is showing that dry slide. Color me amazed when things like that happen, but it's not going out without a bang. Rainfall rates here are proving to be pretty decent. In terms of winds, let's look at some gusts around Central Florida. This is within the last hour. Gusting to 22 in Melbourne, gusting to 24 in Palm Coast. Sustained winds 15, 10, 15 miles an hour. So it's not too bad as of yet. But certainly we will see those winds picking up through the day ahead. All right. All right. More questions for you. Let's see here. Wait, staying a 4 across Florida. That's just what your model showed. No. So the National Hurricane Center's new forecast as of the 5 o'clock advisory keeps the hurricane as a landfalling category 4 storm and then brings the intensity down 3, 2 over us. The best way to think about it is, yeah, if it's making landfall, bring down some of that intensity, and that's where we'll be. We usually use down a category or 2. So that would put it as a category 2 or a low end category 3 across Central Florida. And we've said this for days, that this has the modeling to be the most significant strike to Central Florida since Irma back in 2017 and Charlie back in 2004. I remember Charlie moving up I-4. Wind gust of 105 was the peak wind gust for Charlie at the Orlando International Airport. That was the peak gust in Central Florida. We could get there with Hurricane Milton. Okay? All right. Lisa says, appreciate you telling us that we will be okay. We will be okay. We will be okay. Absolutely, we will be okay. If you're thinking of evacuating, the best way to think about it, first off, is you hide from wind, you run from water. So that's the very biggest thing. Outside of that, remember that if you're not in a secure building, then maybe and that's what the Seminole County evacuation order was all about. If you're not in a secure building, then we need to start having you get to safe place, mobile home, tiny home, modular home, RV living, that sort of thing. But if you're in a wood structure, a solid wood structure, a concrete block structure, that sort of thing, then yeah, we're okay. You just need to have a safe place if you need to be, okay? Steve says, first time here. Great job. Thank you, Steve. I'll always work hard to keep your trust, which I think is harder to do than just to earn trust. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Chantel's asking, if staying at Disney resorts, what impacts do you expect as far as wind and power outages? Disney resorts, that tourist area, certainly could get gusts in the 100-mile-per-hour range. So, yeah, could power outages take place? Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be an impactful storm system. And I would add too that more than likely trees will be down. So wherever we will be, we may not be able to go home, right? Or travel immediately after the storm. And that's why we discussed this idea staying inside after the storm moves through. Okay. All right. A lot of people are asking if to be a category 4 through Florida. We're not into the wind radii graphic. I gotcha. It will not be a category 4 through Florida. It will be a category 4 at landfall, and then fairly quickly we'll start to weaken to a category 3. But I can't tell you that we wouldn't get major hurricane winds in southwest central Florida. Okay? So expecting winds, again, when we look at the winds, this is the best product we can talk about in terms of local impacts. When we talk about winds, areas highlighted in red there, okay, areas highlighted in red, Central Florida, areas highlighted in red, okay, you're expecting hurricane force winds, okay? So keep that in mind. Yeah, this is going to be, and that's winds of 100 miles an hour-ish, 74 to 110. All right, that includes the tourist district. What is the North Lake County area going to expect? They said the northwest side will have hurricane force winds. I would say southern Lake County and northeastern Lake County could get hurricane force winds. The farther north you go, you're getting more into the strong tropical storm force winds. Okay. All right, lots and lots of questions. There's 13,000 of you here. So if I don't answer it, I'm doing the best I can. All right, sorry. What's purple mean? On this graphic, purple means the major hurricane force winds. So to that point, we're expecting that the hurricane force winds will be widespread, but the major hurricane, the Cat 3, Cat 4 winds would stay Wauchula, frost-proof, Port Charlotte, Bradenton, that area. But in our area, we would think that it would be more hurricane, Cat 1, Cat 2 wind. Okay, and then this could tweak. We have to watch and see how the data progresses. Okay. Yeah, Letitia says it was the track graphic with the number 4 going across the state. Okay, let me show that to you and let me explain. The way that the computer works, the way that the programming is it keeps the last icon. So yeah, that 4 to a 1, you see how it clicks? It shouldn't say that. It should say 3 and 2 and 1. Yeah, that's just the programming. I see. Now I understand why everybody's asking about a 4 across the whole state. No, 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 no. That's not the case. Thank goodness. That's absolutely not. It should not stay a category 4 through the entire state. Good gravy. No, 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 no. Okay. All right. Other questions here. Let's see here. What's the info on West Palm Beach? I mean, you'll have a tornado threat for sure. Yeah, and probably some hurricane force winds later on. Yeah. Okay. All right. Power outage likelihood in New Smyrna Beach. Yeah. For those of you asking about the power outage, I would say that our entire area is probably going to see likely power outages. I would say that it would be fully widespread southwest of us, but likely power outages across Central Florida. Yeah. 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 And just know that I'm sure I speak for so many when I thank those men and women that are here to restore power after such a significant storm like what we're about to get. Yeah, because it's going to be it's going to be a hit. All right? All right, I'm going to do laundry and take advantage of having electricity. Janice, I would suggest everyone do laundry. Do laundry, get it. Listen, you don't have school. You don't have work. You don't have school or work. Get it done. Get her done, right? While you have power, get it all taken care of. Okay? Now, when is the worst weather moving into your area? This is a great question. Glad you asked. Um, this is based on the National Hurricane Center's forecast. I would say that we probably could see it earlier. This is the core. 10 p.m. around the Tampa area, could be a little later. 1 a.m. essentially Orlando southwest. 4 a.m. Orlando north and east. And again, that's varying. And let me show you the differences in the computer models. This is going to get into this is going to be ugly. This is going to be ugly here. But this is raw data, but you're on Coffee Talk. So let's talk raw data. In green, you're looking at our Futurecast winds, and it's kind of showing an uptick of winds as these little feeder bands, these little squalls move in. But notice that our Futurecast model is showing, this is Orlando, mind you, the worst of the weather, 2, 3, 4 a.m. But notice the European model is like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and the GFS model is like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the models haven't even gotten into the timeline yet. That's frustrating. But doesn't that show how forecasting isn't the easiest thing on the planet? You know? Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. Florida Laundry Day. It's a new holiday. Can I vote not to participate in said holiday? I don't want to play anymore. Ugh. As a homeowner, as somebody who has to work a bunch of extra shifts during hurricanes, as somebody who knows what these hurricanes can do, it's absolutely the last thing that I want to cover, that I want to deal with. And I'm sure you're the exact same way. All right. All right. More questions. Is this going to be like Ian for Port Orange area? It could put down rain amounts like Ian. We were discussing that at the beginning of Coffee Talk, and that's worrisome. Michael, but why say 2 p.m. will be inside? Um, I don't, because at 2 p.m., the Futurecast model is showing some squallier weather. We're going to get more squally weather. Why 2 p.m.? Why not? After that, the winds will be picking up as the core gets closer and closer. I can't force you to do it. I can only make suggestions. Okay? Priscilla says this has to be one of the hardest forecasts in many ways. The models have been bouncing back and forth and back and forth. It's tough. Yeah. But we're doing the best we can. That's all I can suggest with you. Okay? Michael says, I hope you're feeling well and getting enough rest. No, but we're going to do what we need to do to take care of each other, right? All right. Let's see here. Michelle says, we appreciate you. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Lauren, in a manufactured home just north of Claremont, should we leave? I would suggest so. I would suggest for basically all of Central Florida, if you're in a manufactured home, modular home, a tiny home, an RV, probably not the safest place to be. I would not want to be in one of those during the storm. A lot of people also, you have to understand, you don't need to go Like if you're evacuating a mobile home in Claremont, for example, you don't have to drive to Texas. Just find a. It's always best, most comfortable to stay with a friend, to stay with a relative. Okay. And then um, outside of that, go to a shelter. But yeah, I would suggest that if you're in a situation where you're in a mobile home or something to that effect, probably the best practice would be to find a place to go. That was why Seminole County issued their evacuation order. So, a fairly clear cut reason there. Tina says, looks like it will be similar to Charlie as far as wind damage. I, I can just tell you what the modeling is saying. I could just tell you what the trends are. I could tell you atmospherically where we're at, but you know, it's up to Mother Nature to either perform or not perform, right? And I'm not going to sit here and speculate on damage. I would say the soil is soft because we've had so much rain. I would say that we're going to get a ton of rain from this. I would say that we're going to get a big push of wind energy. So I would suspect it's going to be a very impactful storm system, probably one of the more impactful we've seen over the last 20 years. And that's not hype. When you talk about wind, like let's just look at the data, okay? Here's the wind gusts from the last few hurricanes, at least the last impactful hurricanes. Nicole and Ian, the peak wind was during Ian 76 miles per hour in Orlando. Irma was 79, and that was in 2017. I was right there in the studio. Water in this office I'm in, water was coming in through the roof during Irma. And Charlie in 2004, it blew the picture of Dave Marsh off of the West Tower. It was so strong, 105 miles an hour at Orlando International Airport. We're forecasting winds to be in about that 105 mile per hour gust range in Orlando. So this has the potential to be every bit as powerful as Charlie was in Central Florida. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I, I won't allow you, if I have any control, I won't allow anything I say to scare you because weather shouldn't be scary. Sidebar, the whole reason I got into weather was because I was terrified of the weather. But it's my entire goal in my career, to educate and to keep you calm because I think knowledge really is power. I sang the song in elementary school about it, okay? All right, a couple more questions, just because I have to go run and be on TV in a couple of minutes, but I want to see where we're at. Thank you, Millie. I appreciate that. Yvonne's asking, how can the wind here in Claremont be the same as was forecast 3 days ago, even with the eye moving more south than it was? The eye forecast isn't expected to move that far south. It shifted a little farther to the south, and then it shifted a little further to the north. Here's the last several forecasts from the National Hurricane Center. Blue being the oldest, red being the most recent at 5 a.m. It shifted south, then it shifted north. And you're talking about a distance of 15 miles. As the storm comes ashore, a difference in 15 miles at landfall is not going to make a significant difference in our Orlando, Central Florida impacts. It'll make a very big difference where the catastrophic storm surge goes. But for us, by the time it comes in, the wind envelope is spreading as the storm is collapsing. So our impacts are not as fine-tunable in that sense. It's a broader storm by the time it gets to us. Yeah, but that's a really good question and one I'm going to take with me when we go on TV to discuss. Okay. All right. Other questions. Margin of error is 40. Yes, Teresa, 40 miles at this time out. All right. All right. Nancy's asking, I'm new to the area. Where are you broadcasting from? So I'm in Central Florida. I'm in Orlando's television market. We're the NBC station in Orlando. Studios right off of I-4 and Lee Road. And if you're new to town, let's just get a couple of things straight. You're going to be okay. We will be fine. I've been through a bunch of hurricanes. For those of us that have been here a long time, we've been through a bunch of hurricanes. They're not fun. I would say beginner's guide. If you don't have water, right? If you didn't stock up, start filling cups of water and just put them on your countertop. Because after the storm, it may be that we don't have water service. So you want to do what you need. What is my hair sticking up? You may need to, you want to have enough water to go. All right, you want to be able to basically stay in your house without any water or power for a couple days, ideally a week. But I would just say, because people are always like, well, I don't have money to buy bottled water. Fine. Every cup you have in your house, just fill with water and put on your countertop. That way, you got water. The whole idea is to do that. Fill your bathtub with water. You're not drinking that, but that way you could take that, put it into your commode if you need to flush the toilet while you're without water, if that happens. Okay? Obviously, non perishable food, that sort of thing. If you're new to town, though, it's so easy to be so intimidated by this. My goal is to help you not be freaked out. It's a big, nasty thing. And then it's over with. And frankly, our weather gets really, really nice afterward, okay? So just take it easy, all right? For the now 14,000 of you that are here and so many others that are not here, we're going to be okay. Hurricane Milton is going to be a really bad storm for a lot of people. But let's just understand that we're going to be okay. If you live in a mobile home, probably best to find another place to ride the storm out. If not, by about 2 p.m., and again, give or take a little bit, but by about 2 p.m., let's just be locked in where we're going to be. I'm going to be sleeping here at the station. I don't plan on driving in the middle of the night. It's going to be a little too rough out there. Okay. All right. I'm going to go join, I believe it'll be Marquise and I in the 9 o'clock hour, but I'm going to go join the WESH 2 News team on TV. I'll be posting little quick video updates throughout the day to keep you and your family prepared, not scared. Okay. No hype. That is absolutely my goal. I also say this at the end of every coffee talk, whether it's rainy or shiny or sunny or stormy, be the sunshine in someone else's day. Okay? It's going to be kind of crummy for the next couple of days for Central Florida, for West Florida. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. We're going to be all right. I'll see you guys on TV in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for your trust.